Okay, series brakes. This is that pressure differential switch that you watched me rebuild a couple of episodes ago. And yes, it's out of the car again. And the reason it's out of the car again is when I started putting pressure into the brake circuit, it exactly happened what you guys suggested would happen. In that, brake fluid was leaking past the seals and then out past the switch. Drip, 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 drip. So I disassembled and basically the corrosion that's on the shuttle, which I thought was not where the seal is. So that's useless, really. And I thought about getting it rebuilt and re-sleeved and so forth. And then I consulted with the various forums. Now, what does this thing actually do? Well, the idea is it's a warning device. And that shuttle sits in there. Boo! And there's a little dent in the middle of it. And the pin on the end of here goes in there. And the idea is the pin doesn't make contact with the shuttle. Okay? There's a electric voltage goes to there. And when it earths against the shuttle, it lights a light up on the dashboard. So really what it's doing is it's keeping the two separate circuits, the front circuit and the rear circuit, it's keeping them separate, except when one depressurizes, the shuttle shifts and it lights up the light on the dashboard. Fantastic. So it's a warning device rather than, I guess, a full safety device, because it's not actually going to stop your brakes from failing, but it will stop the entire circuit from failing by breaking it down to front and rear brakes. Okie doke. So there we're on a post mid 1980 car. This car's 1982. So it's got the twin leading shoe setup on the front, as you know, and it's also got the twin circuit master cylinder. So we've already got the safety function in the master cylinder itself. So in theory, I could run the brakes from the master cylinder directly to the T-piece that goes down to each of the front hubs and directly to the back axle T-piece which runs to the rear hubs, and you're still maintaining the twin circuits. Now this is kind of generally what a lot of the boys on the forums are suggesting. Just get rid of it. It don't work, it's useless. There's no light on the dash on this particular car. It was fitted probably because Land Rover just bought a shitload of them. And for the UK market, they didn't need the warning light on the dash. Probably did for other markets. The Australians, they seem to be particularly fickle about things like warning lights. I don't know. Not the Australians, the Australian regulators. Australians are marvellous. I'm not even going to mention Novak Djokovic. Oh, fucking hell, I just did. Right. So, strictly speaking, because there's no warning light on this, then this thing really isn't doing anything at all. All it's doing is kind of just adding complexity into the system. However, then comes a problem. When your insurance company says, have you ever modified the car? Well, okay, we've got a 200 TDI in this thing, we've got wolf wheels and so forth. And you say, yeah, I modified the brakes by taking the pressure differential warning actuator out. And they're going to say, oh, that's a safety device. Right, engineer's report, please. Or they might do. If there's a horrendous problem and the police end up looking at your vehicle and find out the brakes have been modified, fucking hell, God help you. So, strictly speaking, even though it does nothing, from my perspective, and I know it seems crazy, folks, rather than just putting a joiner between the two pipes, yeah, rather than putting a joiner, I want to get one of these, put it back in, exactly in the brake circuit like it was, even though it does fuck all. Series 3, you can't get these anymore. Unobtainium. Absolutely unobtainium. So I start hunting around. And I find, oh, I know, country of origin, China. It's the only one that's available at the moment. Beer Mac are about to start making these. We'll see. It's fairly easy to get this in and out. So, this is for a Defender 90 NRC 7871 for a Defender 90. Bear in mind this thing's probably about 3 years older than a Defender 90. So let's have a look. My word, that looks similar, doesn't it? It certainly does, Stanley. it looks exactly the fucking same. Let's get it out of the bag. Let's get it out of the bag. Let's see what is going on here. I'll just protect these bits in here. It's got these two little funny nodules on the top here. It's got the switch on the bottom. That is exactly the flipping same. I wasn't expecting that, folks, I'll be honest. I was not expecting that. Right, so the next thing. I've got a brake fixing here. So my rule of 10, I need to work out what brake fixings are going into this thing, into this girling box of tricks. So my general rule of thumb is that a metric M10 fixing will not fix into a UNF female. Okay, so I've got a metric fixing and I've got a UNF female fixing, and they go in, but it turns quarter of a turn and then freezes up solid. Okay, so you know that that is UNF. So if this doesn't go into here, these are UNF. Does it go in? Yeah, it goes in. Right, so that is metric. Are they all metric M10? They bloody are. So if all of these are metric M10, we've got a resolution here, haven't we? Shiny. Oh, excuse me, sniffity, sniffity, sniff. Right, so they're all M10. Now, just to demonstrate here, this is a UNF fixing. It also goes in, but look how wobbly it is. So you've got to be really, really, really careful you use the right fixings in a metric female. So, this should be metric as well then. I'd rather hope it would be. It's Defender. Yeah. Neat. Neat. Now, what are these things on the end here? Are these non-returns or something? Well, it goes in. Do I actually need this on here? Let me take these off. Take one of these off, see what it does. Fuck's sake, Richard, stop sniffing. Fucking. Wait, cunt. Right. That. Dirty fuck. Oh my goodness. Right, what have we got here? 13 mil. Oh my goodness. It's cold. That can go there. That can go there. 13 mil, I think they are. Bloody are. Tight. Well, it's nothing, it's just a straight extension. So it looks like then if I take these two out, then it becomes an absolute direct replacement for the original Girling brake unit. Exactly the same. Right, well, I'm going to go and pop that in. I'm going to put that straight in. I'm not messing around anymore. I'm going to do brakes. How about that? Series 3 boys out there, when your pressure differential switch has failed you, NRC 7871. Pop it in. Right, now what I'm going to need to do here is put this bracket back on. Just a bracket that attached this to the chassis rail. Then yeah, I bleed the brakes, see what's going on. It's weird, isn't it? How weird. What fun. Bleeding these brakes, it's all a piece of piss really. I'll show you how I'm doing it. So first and foremost, I've got the easy bleed up here. Easy bleed running off a tyre. It's actually a Disco 1 spare wheel here from the LSE project for some reason. So let's put this up to 20 psi. Doesn't want to be much more than 20 psi because otherwise you'll end up damaging the easy bleed. That's off. Attach the easy bleed to it. Boom. And it's attached. Okay. And now, what am I doing with this little bastard here? Well, this is a reservoir with a non-return on it, but very, very useful long pipe on it. So we attach this onto the bottom bead nipple, Harvey spanner, which is up here. Puts this on top of the swivel. Can you see that? I can't. Put that on top of the swivel. There we go. So the pipe is only now going in an upwards direction. Undo the bleed nipple. I can find it. And then all the bubbles go upwards in the pipe. Lots of bubbles. And then nip him up. Pull the pipe off. I mean, it's a lot easier than the way I would have done it in the past, which is literally just to have a long piece of pipe going up and above the nearly this old brake fluid up and above the top slave. Come over here, it's a little bit less noisy, and also got no wheel arch on. Let's see a little bit nearer to what I'm doing. So again, attach this onto, oopsie, onto the bleed nipple. There we go. Make sure the pipe is going in an upward direction. Undo the bleed nipple, the bleeding nipple. Get hold of it, I can't see. Oh, come on, you bastard. Right, and we'll see the fluid is coming up, and any bubbles in this are going to automatically rise up in the fluid as well. I think that's pretty much done. There we go. So you can come around here now. Whoops. Donk. And then fuck it. Take the camera off the fucking tripod. Hello. So this is effectively what I've done down here. You can see the bleed nipple has got the clip over the top of it. It's a right angle kind of like bleed nipple thing. And then undo the bleed nipple, and the bubbles can only rise up through the fluid. It's the only way they can go. With me? Oh yes, right. Just check that bleed nipple's tight. Check there's no. So you see the fluid rising up. There's a bubble. There you go, tiny bubble, just get it to the top up there. And tighten him up. And then all I need to do now is to pull it off for now. Come on, you fucker. Right, there we are, we're off. Right, you're upside down, sorry about that. So let me go and empty this out now, because this is just making a huge mess all over the place. It's Lucas fog light switch. It's been driving me up the wall for about an hour now. 188 SA, so fog light switch. It's a light switch, but I'm not going to use that function, so you turn it one side or the other to get your sides and your dips on. but then also you can pull it, which is the function I do want to use for the fog light. Got a live wire going through the middle here for the bulb. We've got earth for the bulb, and we've got the switch circuits over here. Okay, every single time that was connected to earth, it will pop the fuse every single time, and eventually it's kind of died. Now, so what actually happened to it? The main switch is still working. It's only the telltale that was ever a problem, and it was the very last time that I did pop the fuse that I saw kind of a flash of light coming out of this switch, because obviously there's a telltale on the end here. Took the switch off, removed the bulb, and when I removed the bulb, the top half of the spring came off at the same time. Nice, eh? When you look at the wire that goes down the inside of the tube, and I'm just going to push it through here. So obviously there's a very, very, very thin, I don't even know if you can see that. Can you see that? Very thin insulator ring there, okay? Which is supposed to keep this insulated platform, which isn't insulated, free from the spring at the bottom here, which is the return. And basically what's happened is, oh, sorry, scratched my face. What's basically happened here is the plate that's supposed to just kiss the bottom of the bulb, and the bulb earths through the threaded part on the side here, which was screwing into the top here, was contacting. What a bag of shite. I mean, that has got to be a really, really spectacularly shit design, that. I can't see how that was ever going to work. So what I'm going to do here, because we've got the switch and I'm fed up with pissing around with this thing now, I'm going to chop the wire off here, take the bulb and the telltale wire out entirely, use the switch circuit here on the back in order to take a feed from the dip beam and send it straight through to the fog lights, and then off the fog lights I will then utilise a telltale, separate telltale, which I had in my hand not 12 seconds ago. Oh, for fuck's sake, Richard. Here, it's on the floor. It fell on the floor. And all I'll really do is the housing, which I've already bloody drilled for this switch, I'll just put the telltale just above it. Okay, so you can see it. MOT regulations will be passed then. Luckily I had that. Disappointing that I couldn't get it working in that. And I thought, oh, well, there's no point in using that. We'll just send that the fuck back. And I used this little switch here, which is a fog light that hasn't got a telltale inside it. There's nothing inside it at all. And I thought, oh, I'll use that. Drilled the fucking hole, haven't I? Look, it's a monster. I just don't think, I think practically we'll just put that switch in. I'm going to have to drill a separate hole for the telltale anyway. Irritating. Irritating, irritating, irritating. Yeah, so that's spectacularly shit really, isn't it? I really don't know what to say about these things. Just cheap, I think. Chinesium. Fairly typical. There you go. Be warned. And basically, I think the way it should work is you end up with a feed. Let's say the feed goes to pin number 1, the fog lights connects to pin number 3, and earth needs to connect to pin number 2, and then that wire that's dangling out there, which is black, which is a Lucas code for earth, actually goes to the positive. Quite why it was going to negative, I don't know. I mean, I suppose you could feed that wire there up to a live, but I don't know. Bag of shite. Anyway, it wasn't working, and we know why now. I'm waiting for the exhaust manifold gasket to turn up, and then I can bolt up the replacement turbo and get that all sorted out. I still need to bleed the clutch hydraulics because I need to get this car done. As you can see, I put the door back on. Door now opens and closes nicely. Handle is really stiff though. I might have to see if I can just chamfer a bit off there. Got all of the dash in, head controls to the locks, all in. Nice, eh? Looks good. All works. Quite pleased with that actually, looks really smart. So, Justin the owner trimmed this. I don't think he's done a really nice job of it. Looks really good. And really, all we're looking for now is to get the seats back in. all of that stuff at the back there is really from the inside of the vehicle. Yeah, so it is moving forwards. Oops. Slowly but surely. I'm going to need some help with bleeding the brakes because I've adjusted the back plates, I've bled them again, but really it needs that kind of pump on the pedal in order to pressurise the system, lead the foot down. For some reason the Easy Bleed is just not giving me that extra oomph. Normally I bleed these things with 2 anyway, but it's certainly helped having the cylinder up here. It's got the majority of the air out, but not all of it. But the pedal's a lot firmer than it has been. So that's really this heading in the right direction. What I've got to be careful of, because I've obviously got the outside wing off, is I use that. Oh, don't lean on that, Richard. Whatever you do not lean on that. Quite a pleasant day today as well now. Mid-January. COVID +2. Nice day. Right, let's go into a bit more detail around the installation. So now I've got the right turbo, got the right manifold. I can start to put this thing together using this nice kit here from Steve Parker's. Link is below. And as you can see, I've kind of just been roughly lining things up. I've not done any of the cutting around this. This is all kind of done. And obviously the wing being taken off gives you an enormous amount of access to start messing around with things and getting things how you want them to be. Big shout out to Dale, first and foremost, for the LED light, which is flicker free actually. It's just put a couple of LEDs inside a big blue tube and then wired it up. Very nice, thank you. Most useful. And I've got my trusty lamp on there as well to give me a bit of lightage on this side of the workshop, because there isn't a whole lot on this side, I'm afraid. It's all over there. Yes. Right, let's just trip over the cable. Come on, cable, get out of the fucking way. We're on a Saturday, so I figured that what I'd do, because it's nice and quiet today, is go through really what I'm going to do with this thing. So first and foremost, 200 TDI intercooler, which has been modified. So Steve Parker's actually did the modification where they took the outlet pipe and put it up there, and then it's reversed the flow of the intercooler. It's not the best intercooler in the world, but it's a used old stock item. It will do the job. Oh, blowy. So obviously the intercooler now needs to connect up to the turbo. And what I've done is I've taken the nose piece off the turbo. It's held in by a bloody great big circlip on these ones. I'm trying to fix my lights as well. Bloody great big circlip on these ones, which is almost exactly that big. Look at that. And that goes around the inside there and actually holds the outer part of the turbo housing onto the main body of the turbo housing. Now the reason I needed to undo that was I need to rotate the orientation of the turbo outlet pipe. It needs to line up with that. Okay? Then I'm going to need to drill a couple of holes, because you've got 2 threaded holes there, which originally would have been down here, and then it would have allowed the mechanism for the, whatever you want to call that, dump valve, wastegate. I'm probably using all the wrong words. This thing needs to be mounted back onto the turbo surround. So this one's been crudely welded and adjusted at some point, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. It has been modified, hasn't it? So yes, I need to drill and tap a couple of holes onto the housing, which again is another reason for taking this off, because I can do that and not damage any part of the turbo. And then the exhaust will be going straight down over here. And I've got Steve Parker's exhaust to go onto this thing as well. Steve Parker, Steve Parker, Steve Parker. Now, other things that are going on with this. So we've got the intercooler pipework is roughly in place. I've got the exhaust I've discussed. The turbo pipework is a frickin' mess on this thing. So the return stub is down on the block down there. Needs to go to the bottom edge of the turbo down here. I'm missing the stub actually off the turbo unit that was supplied, so I'm going to have to get one of those. The feed pipe seems to be about 5 meters too long. So what we'll probably do is just get a standard 200 TDI disco turbo feed pipe and not this great big long thing. because otherwise it's just, longer the pipe, the more risky it is it's going to get ballsed up. Access to the starter motor is infinitely easier now, by the way. Now we've got the right turbo in place. As far as cooling is concerned, now the general consensus seems to be you use a Discovery 200 TDI radiator. And the customer has bought a brand spanking new one here, which is brand spanking new, complete with all its plastic end caps and everything is in there, undamaged. And then what you do is you use, let's clear a bit of space on the bench up here, you use the framework from a Disco 200 TDI, but you cut it down. So basically I've chopped, I don't know where the bits are, I've chopped the intercooler section out of the framework so that the framework just accommodates the radiator. Okay? The reason the radiator's not in that at the moment is because I now need to work out a way that I'm going to mount this onto the chassis. Now I've had a good old gander through various videos that Steve Parker's has done regarding the 300 TDI conversion, and I've got some ideas about how I'm going to do that. I need to get an electric fan on this leading face up here as well. Now, in some ways, looking at the 200 intercooler, it's a shame, really, I think, that it's not able to mount vertically. The pipework and everything for this thing is designed to mount horizontally, so the intercooler sits like that. And on the 300 TDI, it mounts in this position here. It is what it is. There'll be enough room to get around it that it's not completely blocking off the lead face of the radiator. I think I've got this intercooler really kind of mounted how I want it to be. I'm going to do that without burping. I think I've got the intercooler now mounted how I want it to be. So it's kind of as close to the front panel as I can get it. So I've got space behind for the radiator and the cooling fan. And really all I've done, L-shaped bracket up here, which I've mounted through the side panel, what's remaining of the side panel there. So you can see I've used the original kind of rubbers that went on the original radiator frame, and I've put them in this box, which the customer acquired for me. I don't know where he got the box from. I shall put the details below. And if I just knock this bolt out, I'll show you how I've mounted the bottom edge. Can I knock the bolt out? Can I knock the bolt out? I can knock the bolt out. There we are, there's the bolt out. If I lift up the whole intercooler now, you'll see that I have welded 2 brackets onto the bottom of the frame. All this will get painted, don't worry. And then I'm using the front panel mounting holes in order to locate it. I've welded bolts on, so really the nuts go in from underneath. And that's it. I think that will actually mount that how I want it. So next up, I'm going to have a look-see at the radiator. I'm not going to bolt all this lot in. I want to leave it in place. I'll just wedge that bolt back at the top there and hold it all roughly in place. Because I'm going to need to work out radiator next. And I think the radiator is going to be very much like the 300 TDI installation, whereby I shall put plates here, riv nutted down, so they can be adjusted, and then secured to the bottom of the radiator mounting, either via these pins here, or I will cut holes through and weld bolts through that are the same diameter as the pins. And then effectively what I'm looking at doing is much the same as I've done here. So you use pins at the bottom of the radiator, stood on the wire, then pins at the bottom of the radiator, drop it in, and then secure it along the top using bolts. And then when I've got everything in place, I'm going to make up a panel that goes down here, just ready to box it in a little bit or tidy it up. I don't know if it's going to need anything at all, to be honest. I might even just chop this piece off here and leave it as it is. I've got some bronze green, so I can get it all painted up afterwards. But let me have a look now at radiator. Then when I've got these 2 fitted, then I can start looking at all the pipe work, you see. Oh yes, so far dead easy. Dead easy. I think this whole thing is going to end up getting painted rattle canned black, after a primer, of course, unless I rattle can it with something like Hammerite. I suspect that the owner is going to end up changing this intercooler at some point, but I think if I was just to give it a light kind of dusting over, it's not going to stand out. Obviously all the wiring needs to be tucked back up again, but while the wings are off, I'm just leaving all that as it is. I've got bags of room now between the turbo and the alternator, whereas the exhaust for the other turbo was right up against the alternator. I don't know where it came from. So yeah, that's been quite a productive hour and a bit. Oh, I stood on my red pen of turds. That was silly, wasn't it? Let's get a coffee on. Now, obviously I'm protecting the oil ways on the turbo. The exhaust is pointing towards the back, but I'm being very, very careful of swarf. When I'm drilling up here, I'm keeping everything clear of the intercooler. I'll give it a proper good blow through before I finish, and everything will get cleaned out thoroughly before I finish. But yeah, moving forwards, I think next thing I'm going to do is to cut this edge off here. I don't want that damaging the radiator in any way whatsoever. So radiator frame next, then I can put the radiator into the radiator frame, and then I can start measuring up what I'm going to do about the cooling fan. That's all right, isn't it? It's getting there. There's a couple of things I want to change on this. First and foremost, I'm going to need to take a little notch out of this edge of the radiator to clear the intercooler pipe. So I've had to move the radiator quite a long, or the frame, quite a long way this way. I've narrowed it down further, and I've so that's where it was mounted, and I've moved it in a fair amount further. I'll tidy all this lot up. I've got the arm on its extreme extension over here, you probably see in there, and it's clear of the radiator. I want the radiator to go slightly lower though. As you can see on the inside, we've got bags of room against the nose of the what's its name. So I'm inclined to actually drop the radiator down a bit further, put it inside the front chassis rail, and that'll give me enough room, more than enough room, I think, for the electric fan. Oh, hello. You're going to just drop down there, are you? Right. So, kind of what I'm thinking is that it goes down here like this. And if I was to cut a notch through the outer frame, I'm going to double check. I'm going to fit the radiator in a second and see how much space I've actually got in here. And then I'm not sure, if I turn this the other way up, I'm not sure yet whether I am going to utilise these pins or put a bolt through from the inside where I want them to go, because the pins are just going to give it like a centimetre of extra lift. Now, one of the things that Steve Parker's website did is they were able to put riv nuts in here and then have like an angled bracket like this, so it comes up from there and out and allows the radiator to locate. I'm probably inclined to replicate that, because using my right angle drill I can get through the chassis rail here. Obviously the brake lines are all completely fucking in the way now, but you know, these are minor issues that I can get around. So I think next, really, I need to find some way of mounting the lower edge of the radiator, so at least I can get it located with the radiator core in place, and double check then that I've got enough space for the electric fan, which I think I have. I mean, the electric fan's going to sit between this edge here and probably a finger's width away from the from the cross member. So we're going to have about a good, what's that, 2 inches in order to accommodate the fan. That's tomorrow's job. I'm not going to do that now because I've kind of almost had enough. Now, the other thing is, I need to double check how the inner wing is going to fit with this pipe the way it is currently, because it could well be that I've got this pipe here, because I'm pointing the camera at a completely different pipe. This pipe here, which connects onto the turbo, I need to find out if that is actually the right way. It doesn't have to go further around in order to clear the inner wing. I think it will clear the inner wing, but as you can see there, the inner wing is sort of proud of the brake union. You can see down there. So I'm kind of thinking that yes, it will fit. Yeah, I think so. I don't know what you think. I still need to put all the clips and everything on it. Don't get excited about any of that. I'm going to go home and look at parts that I need to order up, I think, because it's flipping cold here today. It's about 3 or 4 degrees, but There's a wind chill. I mean, we're, what, middle of February, 12th of February. Oh, there's the sun over there, look at that, that's nice. All is peaceful.